Hey, it's Paul with ToolMetrix. First, a quick shout out. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been subscribing to the channel and clicking like on videos, asking questions, and just engaging in the dialogue. It's really fun, really satisfying, and fuels me to come back and make more of these. Today, I want to talk about taking a log like this, which is a maple log, which is a limb off of my neighbor's maple tree, and slicing it into boards. It's very easy to do this, and it's very satisfying. You can save money and end up with some really nice lumber that you can use in your projects. The jig that I use for this is very straightforward, based on a design by George Von Driska, Von Driska Woodworks, and it's basically two pieces of plywood butted together at 90 degrees with a couple corner plates in. I used glue and brads to nail it together, and it took about 10 minutes to make, and it's just it's kind of a foolproof design. You might say, well, that's kind of lightweight construction, and it is, but I have used this type of jig many times over the years, and I've never had one come apart, and you can see it can withstand a lot of weight from a heavy woodworker. So anyway, jig is very straightforward to make, and now let's talk about how to use that. I'm going to walk you through the full process end to end, so if you're really going to do this, please watch all the way through so that you don't end up cutting some nice looking lumber that just cracks and twists on you by the time it's fully dry. All right, first I set it up. I usually do this over at the bench, rather than trying to do it at the saw, just where I have more room to work. Now, I sized the jig when I made it to be half of the total height of the resaw capacity in my saw. So my saw has 16 inches of resaw capacity. This jig is 8 inches plus 3/4 of an inch. So I can attach this to the middle of the largest size log that will fit under the upper guides on my bandsaw. That's how I size the jig, and then I just made it so that both legs are the same. You can make this a little bit shorter to give you more width capacity if you have a smaller size saw, but you can do this on any size saw, probably 12 inches and up. I'm going to be doing this on a 16-inch saw today, but I've done it on a 14-inch saw before as well, and it just works great. So don't let the capacity of your saw dissuade you from doing this. So I've got the log set up on the bench. Now I just kind of found the flattest side of the log. Use that to our advantage because that's going to ride against the saw bed or the saw table. And now I align the jig up next to the log, and I'm just going to look for the point where the log is going to hit the center of the jig. Now, if I already had a hole in that spot on the jig, I would just use that, and if not, I'm going to drill a new hole. And in this case, I'm going to use this existing hole and attach. I've got a 2.5-inch deck screw, which is plenty, and I'm just going to attach that using my impact driver. All right, make sure that both the log and the jig remain flat on the table. Take another screw. Now, yeah, this also aligns. I'm going to put one a little bit higher. You want it right in the middle because you don't want to create a situation where you're pulling the log off of the table. You want it nice and firmly seated. That looks about right. So just drilling another pilot hole, and then I'll go ahead and attach. All right, that's all there is to it. I'm going to tighten it up a little more. There we go. That's all there is to it. Now I'm going to lug this over to the saw and get set up and show you how to make the first cut. All right, I'm going to use the jig in conjunction with the fence to get alignment with the blade. Now I'm using a 1-inch resaw blade. Don't be concerned about that. You can use a 1/2-inch blade on this you want, or a 3/4-inch blade. I'd recommend something in the 3-tooth per inch kind of range to give you ease of cutting, so it's going to be powering through a big log. Also, you're going to want to do this while the log is still green. This one is still plenty wet. I wish I would have sliced it up 6 months or so sooner. It's starting to crack a little bit, but the sooner after you cut the log off the tree, the better it is to cut it up here. If you wait till it's dry, you're going to have cracks, and it's going to be a lot harder cutting on the saw. So I'm using the fence in conjunction with the jig, and I'm lining up on the pith of the tree. So this area of the log you are not going to want to have in one of your boards. So strategy is to cut that out at one point in the process. So my first cut, I'm looking for kind of close to alignment with that pith, not directly on it, so that I've got one side that is pith free. Now the pith isn't going to be perfectly in the middle usually, and it's not concentric. One end is going to be a little bit different. So you got to look on both ends, make sure you're getting a good cut, and then just keeping in mind at some point you're going to remove that pith. So I've got the fence now lined up to where I want it, and I'm ready to make the first cut. And so I'm going to go ahead and fire things up and get this moving. All right, there's cut number one, and I can tell you right now that I'm just thrilled when I see the grain inside of that log. And this is the fun part about this process, is getting that first look at what's inside of that log. It's so cool. Can't wait to get this slabbed out and turn it into boards. So at this point, the jig is done, right? We're done using the jig. I'm going to take the log off of the jig, and we'll make the rest of the cuts just using the fence. All right, the next cut is to establish a flat bottom on the log that's going to ride on the table of the bandsaw to make our next cuts. So I have one very straight edge and one edge that is a little bit more ripply. So I'm going to use this edge up against the fence, and I'm going to line the fence so I'm taking off, I want at least about a 3-inch surface to put up against the bandsaw table for a log this size. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that. So I'm going to get a 3-inch flat side. Adjust the fence. Lock it in. I'm going to lower the bandsaw's guard. I had it up previously so it was just above the height of the log. You know, on any extra blades showing, for safety reasons and for cut quality reasons. And then I'll make the next cut. All right, now we've created a good flat side that's going to ride against the table saw bed. I'm going to set that in place, and our initial flat side is going to ride along the fence. I'm going to set again, the height of the blade guard. Bring that back up so that we're just have clearance over the top of the board. I'm going to set this to make a 5/4 boards. That should be about right. And here's where you can decide, what thickness boards you want to make for your projects. 5/4 I find gives me a lot of flexibility. Could go a little bit thicker than that. I don't want to make them too thin because then you're dealing with loss. You can always plane them off or resaw them some more, resaw them down some more if you want. But that just works for me. You can saw to whatever thickness you want. So lock that down. Now I've got my fence in place, and I'm going to just leave that set up and cut 5/4 inch boards off of this log until I can't cut anymore. All right, so we've got half of the log slabbed out, and now what I'm going to do is just take it over to the bandsaw, each piece, and zip off the edge that has the bark remaining on it. That'll only take me a couple seconds. That's optional. If you want to leave the bark on, that's fine. I like to start out with bark-free lumber in the drying process, just a personal preference. All right, the other side of the log goes just like the first side. We're going to flatten out a bottom, flip it up, and start ripping boards again. Also, don't forget to find the board that has the bulk of the pith in it, and you're going to want to cut that out. And you may be able to salvage 2 pieces of the board. This one, it kind of goes from here, straggles off into the corner of the board. So I'm going to pretty much just salvage this half of the board. All right, our next move is to sticker and stack the boards in a nice orderly pile for drying. I've cut a bunch of 3/4 inch thick spacers or stickers, and you can see that I've got them evenly spaced. You want those stickers in a straight vertical alignment so that you're not putting twisting pressure on the boards as they're drying. You want them to be able to dry in a nice stress-free kind of environment. You also may notice that the stickers on the bottom are thicker, so I like to get it up off of the, and I'll move these to the floor when I'm done with this video, and you want to be able to get those up off of the floor to get good airflow and circulation throughout the stack, particularly from the ground up. And then as a final step, one more row of stickers, and then something heavy on top. This is a cinder block, or a half cinder block, I guess, and this is going to hold things under pressure so that it dries uniformly without twisting, cupping, and you're going to end up with just much better quality wood. One more step after this, we're going to seal up the ends. All right, I just checked the moisture with a good moisture meter, and I'm up in the mid 30% moisture, which is good. You want to cut these boards while they still have a lot of moisture in it, and then, so this means it's probably going to take a year to a year and a half, give or take, to dry at 5/4 inch thickness. And then, so in order to slow that moisture evaporation from the boards, we're going to seal the ends. There's a couple ways to do that. This is an actual commercial product for that purpose. It's just a wax emulsion, and I'm going to paint this onto the end grain with a paintbrush. I'm going to put 2 coats on and let it sit, and it'll dry. It dries pretty quickly. Now, I've also used just latex paint, and I've found that it works equally well. If you get this on early, you really do minimize and almost prevent cracking in the boards. These are going to get some cracking because, you know, I should have cut these many months ago, but if you cut these early, get a good sealer on the end grain, whether it's this product or latex paint. I've had equally good luck with both approaches. The one advantage that a product like this has is it is not hard on planer knives. So you could run these directly through the planer with the sealer on and not have any problems, versus latex paint, but which could damage your knives or dull them quickly. I usually have the ends cut off of the boards before I run them through the planer, so it's not that big of a deal. This stuff is easy enough to use though, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Just a nice liberal coat on both ends of the boards, and just put it on real heavily. Let it dry for just a few minutes, and then come back and hit it with another coat, and then it's good to go. All right, I've got a couple coats on each end of the boards. They're sitting at, like I said, about 35% or so now, moisture content, and I'll be looking to these boards in a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, to get down into the 8 to 10% range. I'm in Minnesota. That's what I normally get lumber down to when I dry it in my shop. I put it up in my attic. A lot of times that'll accelerate it during the summer months where it's warmer up there. And then its stuff is good to go and ready to use. If you've not used air-dried lumber, it's a treat, especially if you're using hand tools with the wood. And it's really, this process is really nice because you can get all kinds of different species that you can't find commercially available at the lumber yard. So hope you'll give this a try. Please subscribe to the ToolMetrix channel. If you found this useful, please click like, and I look forward to seeing you again. Any questions, please ask them down below. Thanks for watching.